You should hear the voice. Okay, so for those who can't join us live, or if you just want to go back and watch it again later, this link will be shared. Pio to Pio Network's YouTube channel is one place that I know you can find it. I'm going to start off by introducing Brittany Metcalf, 2013 Marietta College graduate. She's currently an advisory solutions consultant with ServiceNow, and she is one of the primary organizers of Pio to Pio Network and all of the programming that's going to start coming at you this academic year.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew. Hi, everyone. My name is Brittany Metcalf. As Andrew mentioned, class of 2013. I live in Houston, Texas, actually, and I'm kind of just kicking it off. The real star of the show is going to be Alex, but wanted just to say hello and introduce myself. And I also want Jessica to also introduce herself because she has been pivotal in getting the Pio to Pio network off the ground as well. So, Jess?
Yeah, hi everyone. Jessica Villacruz, graduate of '08 and graduated with a human resources degree and played 4 years of softball. So we'll kick it back to Brittany.
Yeah, and actually, let's have Alex, you quickly introduce yourself, and then I'll go through a few slides quickly, and then it'll be the Alex show in personal finance.
Sure. No, I really appreciate the opportunity, Andrew, Brittany, and Jess. So thank you for that. Everyone else, pleasure to make your acquaintance. I am Alex Nourse. I'm a 2015 alum, graduated with international business degree, was involved on campus in Greek life, and also played football for a little while. And I am the owner of Hamilton Lauren LLC, which is a notary public and insurance agency that I own.
Awesome. Perfect. So since Pio to Pio Network might be new to you, or maybe you've never heard it before, I did want to kind of take a second and just introduce what this is. And so the college has been listening to alumni feedback, and many alumni, along with students, have been really wanting a better way to connect to alumni and to each other. And so the alumni created the Pio to Pio network on LinkedIn. So I would definitely encourage you to scan that, join it. It's for alumni, it's for students. And a vast majority of our alumni are already on LinkedIn. So Marietta College is basically meeting alumni where we already are. And so the Pio to Pio network, along with the Career Center, also will kind of be doing some sessions on the side, working with students to optimize LinkedIn, understand how to kind of create a profile and network on that platform. And so with kind of the initiative around Pio to Pio Network, that's where the Alumni Association Council comes in. Jess and I are both on that council, and we're really helping the alumni launch this new initiative. And we're really hoping to achieve 4 things. So the first is virtual sessions like this that are open to alumni and students. As this program matures, we're going to have sessions just for alumni and just for students, and then we'll be able to come together for other sessions. But in the meantime, as we're getting this launched, a lot of our sessions are going to be open to both alumni and students, and we think there's a lot of opportunity to network and collaborate there. We also will be doing hybrid sessions. So actually on November 8th, the Pio to Pio Network and the Career Center are basically teaming up to do a session around kind of different trends in Ohio. Jessica is actually going to be leading it. So trends in Ohio, economic development, and then we're also going to have someone else from the council who is a recruiter kind of give tips and tricks around what recruiters are looking for in resumes, LinkedIn profiles, skills, and stuff like that. Students are in person in Thomas 124, and alumni can join remotely. So Jess has some links that she's going to throw into the chat that kind of Pio to Pio, the session next week. Also, a third thing we're hoping to achieve down the line is regional on-site sessions. And we're hoping to, I'm actually going to allow someone in quickly. Regional on-site sessions. And we have clusters of alumni everywhere. Like I'm in Houston, there's tons of us here. There's Columbus, there's Pittsburgh, there's New York, and then there's tons of other locations that alumni are in. So our hope is to be able to actually facilitate on-site in certain regional areas for career development and professional development, because a lot of our alumni sessions right now are around fun, which is great, right? We'll go to games, there's Doodah Day everywhere. Going back to Houston on Friday, we have a golf outing that is going on. So those are great, but we got feedback too that especially the younger alumni, I would say kind of within my age, 10 years out of college and younger, are looking for a little bit more of that development opportunity. And then lastly, one thing that we've gotten off the ground with Pio to Pio Network is what we call Pio Connect. And so this is a monthly highlight series to recognize and celebrate alumni who are helping fellow alumni, helping students. And that should be in the links that Jess is putting in the chat as well. And we highlighted Patrick Moran and Royce Limited Partners last month and their internship program where they hosted 2 Marietta interns. So in a nutshell, that is what we're doing with Pio to Pio. So I do want to do a little bit of an interactive session, if you don't mind, because financial or personal finances and financial literacy mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and people have different exposures and comfortabilities around this. And so we were hoping to be able to kind of gauge, what is everyone's exposure, comfortability, maybe even lack thereof. And this is absolutely no judgment, right? We're trying to kind of just understand how we can help and meet you guys where you are. So if you could humor me, students and alumni, even the council members that are on, if you could scan this QR code, it's going to take you to Menti. If you have your computer open and you want to go to menti.com, it's going to bring you to our survey. And so I'll kind of wait for this number down here to populate with a few people and we'll get started. So again, go ahead and scan that QR code, or if you are on your computer, type in menti.com and enter the code 61898075. 3 people. Can we get to 5? Once we get 5, I'll move on. Come on. Maybe. All right. I'll let you guys kind of dial in, and there we go. We're climbing. So let's go to the first question here. And this is anonymous, right? Your name's not going to be tied to any of the answers. How comfortable are you managing your personal finances? And thanks, Jess, for putting those links in the chat. All right, somewhat. So somewhat, it looks like we have a vast majority of people that are somewhat comfortable. And I guess I should have framed this differently. I'm not comfortable. Rather than no, I'm not comfortable, or I am comfortable, but y'all got the gist. For those of you that put somewhat, are any of you willing to come off mute and just say why somewhat? Like what do you understand, and what would you like to learn more about? Don't be shy. What about, I might call someone out, and I might call out Sierra, if you don't mind coming off of mute.
I knew that was coming, and I was gonna unmute. I think it's one of those things that's like I've sat through some classes. I'm currently a senior, so it's like I know some of the terms maybe, but it's like one of those things I feel like until you put into practice or like actually sit down and do it, like do I actually feel confident in that? Maybe not, but like I have it's somewhat of an understanding. I would like to think, hopefully.
Where do you think your biggest opportunity is to learn, or what is something that you find that, oh, when I hear about it, maybe I need to learn more?
That is a great question, and I think, yeah, it's just the putting it into practice, like actually sitting down. And I think, which when I was reading the description of tonight, like I think Alex is gonna give us some resources. It's like actually I think it's me like sitting down and actually doing it, and
Absolutely.
and having support in that too.
Yeah, thank you for coming off mute. I know I put you on the spot. So another thing too, personal finances. When we hear finances, people think of a lot of different things. Some people have positive emotions, some people have negative emotions, some people don't know how they feel about it. People discuss it more than others. And so, when you think of personal finances, what are some words that come to mind? And it doesn't it could literally just be, the word could be, it's hard, or I love talking about it, or budgeting, or planning. What are some of the words that come to mind? There we go. Retirement, debt, planning, investment. Good. Taxes. I won't lie. I'm very bad at my taxes. I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. So that is definitely a difficult topic for some. Income. Good. All right. So it looks like everyone's kind of in the same mind frame here when they think of personal finances. It's your income, it's planning or budgeting, managing your debt, planning for retirement, planning for your taxes, right? So with that, Alex and I just wanted to kind of gauge where the audience was. And it looks like for the most part, everyone's kind of this happy medium around it. And so with that, again, thank you for humoring me, everyone. And I'm going to hand it over to Alex, and he's going to kind of carry the rest of the presentation.
Sure. No, I appreciate it, Britt. I don't know if I can back that one up, but I will try my best. So, as Brittany mentioned, this is a personal finance 101 type course. So, in no way is this supposed to be taken as, financial advice of any kind. We're not going to go in depth on investing or anything like that. This is supposed to be just a overview of what personal finance is. So I believe the snippet said that we will talk a bit about credit, a brief overview of retirement planning, to where we just talk about what type of vehicles you can use to save for retirement, how you can go about that. And then we also have some handouts later as well. So for those of you who just joined, my name is Alex Nourse. I am a 2015 alum, and I am the owner of Hamilton Lauren LLC, based out of Cincinnati, Ohio. It is a notary public and insurance agency. And so without further ado, so why is personal finance important? So being a pro at your personal finance helps in all aspects of your life. So whenever it comes to big financial decision making, like buying a car or buying a home, or even treating yourself to your daily cup of Starbucks, this all goes into personal finance. So what type of skills does personal finance give you? You can gain financial security, which is a very big ticket item, especially in today's world. You increase your chances of accomplishing your financial goals. If you guys have anything in common, like how much I do, I definitely have some financial goals that I want to accomplish in my lifetime. Some I am closer to than what I thought I would be, and others, not as close as what I would ideally like to be. It also helps you better manage your debt. So especially for young alumni and current students, big item right here is student loans. So, when you guys graduate, how are you going to repay that debt? Are you going to go into a public sector job where it's forgiven? Or are you not as lucky and you do have a monthly payment 6 months to a year after you graduate? It can also help you save for retirement. And most importantly, it can also help you increase your quality of life. So to kick things off, we have budgeting 101. So quite simply, what is a budget? It is a process of creating a detailed plan for managing and allocating financial resources. That's just really fancy banker talk for save your money so that you can do whatever it is that you want financially later on in life. Now, how do most people budget? Most times it's on a monthly basis. Some people do it on an annual basis. That can be in the form of a net worth statement. Whatever it is that works for you, that should be the time period that you should try to stick to. So if you do it on a monthly basis, try to review it every month. If you do it annually, try to review it at least once a year. And most importantly, to have an effective budget, you have to make sure that you are not spending more than what you're currently making. Now, the simple formula for that is income less expenses equals your savings. So whatever money you have coming in versus whatever money you owe people, that is how much you can actually save as far as fund money or into actual savings. So where can I start if I want to budget? The days of sitting down with a legal pad and going through writing out your paycheck and all of your monthly subscriptions, those are all but over. So popular apps, I have used every single one of these at least once in my life, are Mint, YNAB, which stands for You Need a Budget, Good Budget, and Every Dollar. There's also one called Rocket Money that wasn't listed. That does have a free section. Some of it may be at cost, though. It just kind of depends what you're looking for in the app. If you prefer a more hands-on approach, you can also start a Excel sheet or a Google sheet. There are thousands of templates available. It can also range from a very simple budget to a net zero budget, and we can talk more about that later. It helps you
Do
set
you
your
have a
financial.
favorite app, Alex? Do you have a
So
favorite app, like one that you found that was more user-friendly than others?
I typically go between Mint and Rocket Money are the two that I find myself splitting time between. So that's a great question, Britt. No, I appreciate that. So with those, you can sync up all of your bank accounts. Whenever you get paid, it'll, have a little animation go across the screen. You can have different envelopes set up. So, all of my streaming services have a budget, groceries, car insurance, all of that not so fun adult things that we all have to pay for, right? And once you list all of those, you should then categorize them as fixed or variable expenses. So a fixed expense is just something that's the same amount each month. You don't have to worry about it. You know what's going out. A variable could be like your credit card payment. You're probably not going to spend the same amount each month. It might be around there, but it won't be exactly the same. And then you always, always, always want to try to save at least 20% of your income if your situation allows. I'm not, jaded to it. There are instances in life to where you might just not be able to save any income. And that's just, okay as well. So as long as you don't spend more than currently what you have in either income or assets, then try to save at least that 20% if able, like I mentioned. On to the next slide. There are some common budgeting mistakes. So as mentioned earlier, if you overspend or if you neglect putting money into savings or ignoring small expenses that add up over time. So you may think, well, a $5 cup of coffee here or there, that might not hurt anything. And then you find out that you're $10, $15, $20 short at the end of the month. And then lastly on that bullet point is failing to track and review your budget. So much like with anything, you can pay off loans. You can also incur more debt and everything in between. So that's where I mentioned you want to at least review your budget once a year at minimum, ideally, monthly if you can kind of get to that habit. And some common budgeting challenges include dealing with irregular income. So we are absolutely in a gig economy. They may not have the same pay per shift, or if you are a DoorDash or Uber driver, etc., then you may get tips, you may not. If you collect unemployment benefits, those can also change due to how those are taxed, or a commission job, depending on sales and everything, especially if you're a business owner. All business owners know that your income is definitely not the same month to month. You may also have a financial emergency. So hopefully no one has any medical emergencies or the like, but unfortunately life does happen, and a lot of the time that does incur a cost. And then we do have special occasions. So holidays, birthdays, anything along those lines to where, you want to show your friend, just how much they mean to you by getting them that really nice gift, or, it's your birthday, let's go out. You may not want to stick to a $50 entertainment budget by that point. So that is the budgeting 101 piece. Britt, I don't know how you'd want to do this, if we take questions at the end or in between each section.
Let's open it up each section. I did actually just have a follow-up question just to your point around like buying gifts and then maybe not sticking, maybe it's Christmas and you're not sticking to your $50 a month gift giving budget.
Sure.
What would be your kind of recommendation of kind of basically, okay, now I need more money for gifts for the holiday season. What type of shift are we looking at here? How do we plan for that?
Yeah. So, I mean, just a multitude of things. Most banks have what is called a Christmas Club account. So that's just where you can have an automatic deposit of, typically a minimum of like $5 a month, all the way up to whatever amount it is that you choose. And the financial institution will then cut you a check in November. And that's all the money that you saved up throughout that year. And its purpose is intended for, Christmas gifts and everything. You know, you may also need to make more money. That's also just another truth in today's world. Everything's getting more expensive. So you may have to pick up that extra shift or do overtime. If that's, unable to be a thing, then you could also rely on credit. But, it's that fine line of helping to stabilize your short-term cash flow while using credit versus relying on it. So if it's just to get, from, over the holidays and over that hump, then by all means, you can put it on a credit card. But if it's relying on everything for that, then that's what you want to stay away from.
And I think one thing too, always worth considering is that, if you're working with, let's just use a round number, like let's just say like $1,000 for the month, that's like your total money that you have to use, like taxes have been taken out and all of that already. If you want to spend instead of $50 on gifts, it's going to be 200, then maybe, my going out to dinner money for the month has to go down, right? So almost like you're borrowing from different pools as well. Just so you're still spending within that limit or what you have made or budgeted for, essentially.
Right, absolutely. You may have to make those small sacrifices as well, much to your point. If you're unable to or unwilling to, then there are different ways to go about that. But, definitely try to think of your budget as more of a fluid type object rather than just being set in stone and rigid, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so for those of you that are on the line, any questions for Alex about budgeting before we jump into credit? Nothing.
Cool. I will just jump into it then. So as part of the second piece of the presentation is credit. So again, credit is a financial arrangement between two parties. One is typically the lender or the creditor, and then the other is a borrower or the debtor. So the easiest way to think of the lender is I'm going to give you, I'll borrow, or I'll give you $5 for lunch money. So I would be the lender. Whoever I'm giving that money to would be the borrower. And then I tell them, hey, I expect this to be paid back by the end of the week. And I also want an extra dollar on top of it. So that would be setting the terms of the loan, hoping that they would repay the funds to me. And then it normally includes some part of interest. And it should all be paid back at a agreed upon date in the future. Why is credit important? Frankly, it just allows for financial flexibility. So if you have a credit card, much like how almost everyone does nowadays, yes, I do have the cash available to buy, lunch or whatever else, but the allure to the credit card is that it's not going out of my cash flow right now. So will I have a $500 bill on the 15th of the month? Yes. But I can also help ease your budget for that rather than having all of these small purchases that need to be accounted for. So it doesn't sacrifice your immediate cash flow. And if you're faced with a unexpected large purchase, so I recently had to get tires for my car. It was $900 up in Michigan, was not a fun time. And, could I buy the tires? Yes. But did I also want to put it on credit? Yes. Just because I didn't want it to ruin any cash flow and because I also had cash back on the car. So sometimes it's better to, utilize the tools that you have available, especially when it comes to credit. You can always get creative with it, just don't get overly creative. And some common credit tools. So like I already mentioned, credit cards are probably the most common one that everyone knows. You also have car loans, you have student loans, mortgages, or lines of credit. So that is not all encompassing. That is just the most common vehicles for credit.
And what happens, Alex? You mentioned that you had that surprise purchase with tires, right? And that was $900. And what happens if you don't pay your balance, right? There's always the minimum payment and it's like $35, but that's not your balance. So what happens if you don't pay your balance?
Yeah, sure. So that's actually the next slide. So that is what goes into your overall credit score. And so, Britt, if it's okay with you, we can put a pin in that for now.
Sure.
But I will say off of that there are two extremely important dates, especially when it comes to credit cards. And that is the payment date and then the statement date, because that impacts either your payment history or your credit utilization. So you guys can just kind of keep that in the back of your mind for now, and then we can get to that on the next slide. So kind of a segue into that is, what is a credit score? So it is just a number that is given to you by three major credit bureaus, being Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. And that just determines your credit worthiness to potential lenders. So the higher your score, in theory, the more solid of a risk that you are, and the more willing they will be to extend credit to you. And every lender has a certain credit criteria that they try to stick to. And so that score ranges from a low of 300 to a high of 850. And normally people fall in between about 660 to about like 750 is kind of the norm of everything that I've seen and all the research that I've done. And don't feel bad, because only about 1.5% of Americans have a perfect credit score of 850. Now, that's not to say that they are any more credit worthy than the next person. I know some people who have a lower credit score but make every payment on time, and it's just because they have too many credit accounts open, which is why they're seen as a higher risk. Most lenders, and this is kind of a industry insight as well, do not count your score after a 720 credit score. So a 720, for all intents and purposes, is really seen as an 850, depending on which lender that you are working with. So be that for mortgages or credit cards, anything like that, a lot of the time that is actually seen as the same, just to make sure that you all are aware of that. And then, Britt, to your point earlier, so what happens if you miss a payment or are a late pay? It goes on your credit score. So much like everything in life, you're graded on, performance. is kind of how it is, unfortunately. And so part of that being your payment history. So do you repay your debts in a timely manner? That makes up 35% of your total score. So a good credit score, and this is just the average. So typically has maybe one or two late pay accounts on it before your score really takes a major hit. You have a credit utilization ratio. So this is the amount of credit that you have available, and that is not only on like the specific credit card or the mortgage, but you should also think of credit as a pie, if it helps make sense that way. So you can have 3 credit cards, you can have a mortgage, you can have a car loan, you can have a personal loan. That all goes into that credit pie, basically. And then that can also lead into other ratios like your debt to income ratio. So if you're trying to purchase a home, lenders will always look at your debt to income ratio and make sure that it's normally under 43% is the highest that I've seen. So if it's 44%, they will not extend credit to you. If it's anywhere from 30 to 40, you're seen as less of a risk. It just kind of depends on what their internal policies and controls look like. So that's part of your credit utilization, and that makes up 30% of your score. And then you have the length of credit history. So this is especially prevalent for all of those who maybe didn't have a credit card in school, or if you have student loans, that still helps your credit history. So you took the loan out, and then as long as it's in your name, it will be reported to the 3 credit bureaus that were mentioned above. So a good credit history is anywhere from about 5 to 7 years, and that impacts 15% of your score. And then kind of how we mentioned in the budgeting piece, you have both fixed and variable accounts for credit. So a fixed account would be your student loans. You have a minimum payment that you need to make, and it will be the same amount each month, and that's that. That can also apply to your mortgage or a car loan. That's also under the assumption that you do not pay additional principal, that it would just be whatever that monthly payment is. You then have a variable account. So that would be your credit cards. So how much, can I spend? It's up to that limit. You have a hard cap on what you're able to spend on that. But the minimum payment on, let's say, $1,000 statement balance might be $40. So it could be $40 one month. Let's say you tack on another $1,000 on top of that. Well, that $40 minimum payment then might go up to $200. So that's just something to keep in mind, and that also impacts 10% of your overall score. The last piece is the number of inquiries that are on your report. Most common is found within the last 12 months. There are some reports that look back the last 24 months. So it just kind of depends, what bureau you're going through, how you're pulling your credit. And typically 1 to 2 inquiries within the last 12 to 24 months is your sweet spot. 0 to 2, and then that impacts 10% of your credit score. And so how do you obtain a copy of your credit score? So there are so many credit apps out there. You have Credit Karma or Credit Sesame. Those are 2 that I use personally as well. Really enjoy them. They make your score available on a monthly basis, and it is a FICO score. So that is really just the average, essentially, of what all 3 bureaus are reporting. You can also get a free credit score from the link posted in the presentation as well. So that is myfreecreditscore.com. Now, that is on a rolling 12-month basis. So it's only free once a year. You can pay for whatever their subscription is and then pull your credit however often you would like. But personally, once a year, just to look over anything that you may or may not need to dispute with the bureaus is the best practice. While we're on that, so with the 3 bureaus, nothing is ever simple when it comes to credit. So you may have a 800 credit score at Experian, but Equifax and TransUnion may have you listed at a 750. So you may have done nothing wrong, like a late payment. You have all the same credit accounts open. They just don't communicate well. And that's one of the main inefficiencies of the 3 major credit bureaus. Past that point, so what can you do now to start building credit? So as I mentioned, credit is an extremely useful tool. You definitely want it as soon as you can get it, because by the time you need it is when it's typically unavailable to you. So with that being said, what you can do now, you can either look at a secured or a student credit card. Again, if this makes financial sense for you, this is only something to consider. This is by no means any advice to sign up for credit, just so we're on the same page with that. You can be added as an authorized user to an existing credit card. So if your friend or parents, grandparents, anyone has an existing credit card, they can actually add you as an authorized user. And you want to make sure that you trust them to make their monthly payments, because anything that they don't make reflects on your personal credit by that point. So you definitely want to be careful and consider who to ask before making the ask in that regard as well. You can pay your student loans on time when they are in repayment. So this would be more for the young alumni. Just keep on making that monthly payment if able, and then that'll help bolster your credit. You can pay on an existing car or personal loan, or there are some places like Credit Karma and other apps, or even brick and mortar banks that actually have what's called credit builders. So it's a checking or a savings account. Basically what it is you can open it up, put money into it, and then they'll even put, they'll deduct like $25 from your checking, put it into a savings account, and consider that a loan payment. So they will actually reflect that on all 3 bureaus as a open installment loan, so as a fixed loan, and it'll report as that payment, as an on-time payment, most importantly. And at the end of whenever you've run your course with that account and you decide you don't need it anymore, you typically get that money back. So not only does that actually help you save, but it also builds your credit as well. And I believe that is the last of credit. So opening the floor back up to everyone. Does anyone have any questions?
There was actually a question in the chat. Laura, are you able to come off of mute and ask yours, or do you want me to read it out of the chat?
I'll come out.
I'll read it. Oh,
No,
there she is. Perfect.
So, I sent this aside to Brittany too, but what about when you're going for a car? And then it only came up recently because I was getting a new car, and when they pulled my credit report, their number wasn't the same as the numbers that I pulled on 2 of the 3 other of the big 3. And the dealer indicated that they use their own, that they don't rely on the big 3, that they use some other system to come up with your credit score. Is that true, or are they just telling me a good one? I mean, my score was fine, but it was just kind of weird that it didn't match up.
So that's a great question, Laura, and thank you for asking. So again, there are hundreds of derivatives of credit scores out there. Like there's a company out of Pittsburgh, I believe, CBC and Novus, if I remember their name. And they have their own derivative that they made. So the three major bureaus are, just that. They're the three biggest ones. By no means are they the only ones. They're just the most common ones that have been utilized. So, it's not uncommon to see anything like that, to where a dealership may say, okay, well, we don't want to work with TransUnion, so we're only going to deal with a Equifax or Experience derivative for your credit score. So again, there is some fluctuation to be expected in that. I wouldn't be alarmed if it was, like 50 points or less. If it was like over 100, then that's when I'd likely be questioning, if you need to make a dispute, or, what exactly type of software that they're using. Does that better help share insight on that, Laura?
Yeah, it does. Because I guess the thing is, you might know what your score is, but you might not know what your score is depending on the situation you're going into.
Right. And, just in my personal experience as well, I think the last I looked, I had a 815 or something on Experian, and then TransUnion was at like a 785. So it honestly, I kind of jokingly say it just depends on how they feel on a certain day, because everything is sparkling clean, but apparently TransUnion thinks, personally, I'm riskier than what, Experian does. Kind of no rhyme or reason to it. It just depends on what algorithms that they used at that time.
Thank you.
Oh, no problem. My pleasure, Laura. So does anyone else have any questions before we move on? All right.
None in the chat.
None in the chat. Okay, we will move on then. So up next is retirement planning. So for all of the young alumni and students, this is typically the part to where everyone's eyes kind of like glass over, because, well, in my early 20s or, 30s, I don't really need to worry about being 65 or 70 and retiring. It'll just be 3 lifetimes from now. And that is the absolute worst mentality that anyone could have when it comes to retirement planning. So every dollar saved now, especially if you invest it and it's during good years, that can account for 10, 15, $20, not necessarily accounting for inflation or anything like that, right? But it can account for much more money, 40, 45 years down the road. And so leading into that, why is saving for retirement important? It can give you financial security in your retirement years. So quite frankly, guys, that is the difference between being dependent on Social Security or disability, or actually being able to have financial freedom, or whatever your version is of it, in your golden years. So off of that, it helps you maintain the lifestyle that you choose to have in retirement. And then again, as mentioned before with the whole deck, this helps reduce financial stress in your later years as well. So you can still have a budget. You'll likely have a healthy credit portfolio by that point. So this is just another piece of the puzzle that helps you just not have to worry about, when your next paycheck is, or when you're getting your next disbursement from your 401k or IRA or anything. And so when can you start saving for retirement? right now. So if you are so inclined, you can open up an IRA whenever you would like. IRAs can be opened at almost any financial institution. So that includes banks, it includes brokerages, it includes credit unions. There is no minimum age to open an IRA. So for those of us who may or may not have young kids, you can open up an IRA if you really feel like it. You know, there's no age limit to it. If you are, you know, a student, you can definitely do that as well. You know, if your situation allows for it, and if you feel that it's appropriate for you. If you have graduated and you are able, then I would definitely recommend, you know, opening up an IRA. Again, not financial advice. I won't tell you how to invest the money or anything like that. Just my personal recommendation on that one. And the most common types of retirement accounts. So threw it around a lot just then. You have a 401k and then an IRA. So what is a 401k? This is an employer-sponsored retirement plan. So it is tax advantaged for both the employer and the employee. So the employer gets the tax advantage because they will normally have a match. So they'll designate a certain percentage of your income that you're planning on putting away into the 401k that they just write off as tax deductible. So if that is 3%, then as long as you contribute 3% and it's a dollar match, they will also contribute 3% of whatever you match as well, up to that 100% type deal. So that is a savings for them. And it's a savings for us being the employee as well, because then our money can either grow tax-free or it can grow tax-deferred. So if it grows tax-free, you already paid the taxes on it. You do not have to pay taxes when you take it out whenever you're at retirement age. If it grows tax-deferred, you just pay taxes on it whenever it is dispersed 30, 40, however many years from now. Now, there is an annual contribution limit for people under the age of 50. And as of 2022, last year, it was $19,500. So there is another side to that coin. If you are over the age of 50, then you can contribute more, and that is under what is called a catch-up clause. I did not include that just because of today's participant age, to be quite frank. So most often than not, a 401k is also the largest asset by size that you will own by the time you retire. So that beats out your house, it beats out your car, it beats out any collectible collection that you may have. This will typically be the nest egg that you have and your biggest asset by the time you hit retirement age. And moving on to IRAs. So what are traditional and Roth IRAs? So these are just self-funded retirement accounts. Like I mentioned earlier, you can open them at almost any financial institution. Most often than not, these are not under any match by an employer, but it also depends on your employer. So the annual contribution limit for an IRA for people under 50 is $6,000. And that is as of 2022 as well. And kind of like the 401k, the only difference between a traditional and a Roth is the taxes. So a traditional, everything grows tax deferred. If it's a Roth, you pay taxes up front and it grows tax free. So I know that's a lot, but just depending on your current situation or future situations, just also something to kind of keep in the back of your mind as well. So what are some other ways that you can save for retirement? While they may not necessarily be investments in a 401k or an IRA, you can invest in the stock market. Now, I don't know anyone who doesn't wish that they didn't invest in Apple or Disney in the 80s or GameStop 2 years ago and cash out at the right time. You know, those were just economic booms, and everyone who cashed in is extremely wealthy. But that aside, if you have a traditional portfolio, and this is during a good year, so not like 2008 or during COVID, right? On a good year, the average return in an investment portfolio is anywhere from 7 to 10%. So it should be said that if you do decide to invest money, you do risk losing the principal amount or the money that you originally put in. So it is not conservative necessarily by any means. You can lose money. So again, depending on your situation and also your risk tolerance, that would be something to consider if it's for you. Something that is definitely more conservative is also a permanent life insurance policy. So again, being in your early 20s all the way up to early 30s as well, you're probably thinking, why life insurance? Like, I'm going to live forever. It's really weird. Why are you bringing it up? Well, because permanent life insurance accumulates cash value. So every payment that you make to the policy, part of it is actually invested in the insurance company's general portfolio, is what it's called. So that typically grows at about a rate of 3 to 5% annually. What is really cool about it is that it can also help supplement retirement income as well. So you can talk with a financial advisor or an insurance agent, and they can show you illustrations about how by the time your policy is paid up at a certain age, let's just say 65, you can actually start borrowing against the policy while still maintaining the death benefit. So if you have $100,000 in cash value and it's a $125,000 policy, you could borrow all of that $100,000. And if you die while that's still outstanding, your family will still get $25,000 from the insurance company. So it's something really technical, but really cool. Again, if it is something that you are able to do, then please consider it. And last but not least, all of this can be taken with a grain of salt. You really should talk to a trusted financial advisor, or if you're more of a DIY person, there are plenty of financial books and blogs, forums, just a wealth of information and literature out there about finances and investing and everything like that. Again, this presentation is just for a generalized overview. It's not to be taken as financial, legal, tax, any advice like that. So I do believe that was actually it, Brittany. I would love to open the floor for any questions that anyone would like answered. I would also definitely love if you guys connected on LinkedIn, or if you have any questions that you think of after the fact, feel free to call or text me at the number above, or email me at my work email.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Alex. This was really helpful, and I appreciate you taking the time. Laura, do you want to ask the question around recommendations? And then I have a follow-up question around different savings accounts.
Sure. You know, Alex, you were talking about different resources to educate yourself. Do you have any favorite podcasts or podcasts that you might recommend along those lines?
Oh, yeah. So as far as my probably all-time favorite podcast, I would go with Freakonomics. So that is just a really good finance, but also economic podcast that I really like. I can also send you some other recommendations as well, Laura. If you'd like, we can email or text or anything too.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Also, Alex, I put the packet in the chat for everyone, and then there was, what was the website? I meant to actually put this in the chat. What was the website where he said there was also additional, was it like consumer.gov or something
Yes.
like that?
Yeah, that is a fantastic resource, guys. So that is where I got the packet that Britt just put into the chat as well. So that's really just kind of the sampler, if you will. They have other worksheets if you want a hands-on approach. They have flyers and everything. So it's anything you can do to educate and then also implement as well.
Awesome. And let me actually consumer.gov. There we go. And then last question, Alex, is a question around high yield savings accounts. I feel like there's a lot of hype around them, especially on social media.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts? I know this isn't financial advice, but kind of what are your thoughts? I feel like a lot of us get our news or info from social media. Things are trendy. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I love them. So me personally, I have 2 or 3 opened just for different things that I want to save for. Um, I would say the biggest piece of advice, especially after the 3 or 4 large regional banks just failed back in March, is to make sure that they are all FDIC or NCUA insured. So FDIC would be for a banking institution. The NCUA would be for credit unions. So just make sure that they're insured. And if you are over the $250,000 limit, be sure to look at either additional insurance if it's available, or figure out how you can format your beneficiaries or anything like that for the additional coverage. But yeah, high yield savings, 0 risk, and you get like 5% nowadays. So I am all for those.
Cool. Are there any questions from anyone else on the line? Don't be shy. We're here to help. All right. Well, we will be, for those who are attending, there will be a follow-up email just with those resources. I know we put them in the chat, but sometimes that can be hard to follow. So be on the lookout for that. Please join the Pio to Pio network. That's where a lot of resources are going to be, whether it's stuff like this that Alex is talking about, internships, jobs, resources. We're trying to kind of really bring that together and make that a community for both students and alumni. And don't forget, we have another session next week on the 8th with the Career Center if you're interested. But with that, I want to say thank you to Alex. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your evening to present to us. And thank you for all of you who have dialed in. And Andrew, I don't know if you have any parting words or if we're just going to let class dismissed.
Sure, I can wrap up with my emoji hand clap for Alex and all the fantastic information that he shared with us tonight. I certainly appreciate it. The Pio to Pio network is up and running live. So please do keep an eye out for future events. I think this is a fantastic start to that. Please do reach out to any of your alumni partners or the Career Center or myself or alumni engagement with any questions about future events, and keep your eyes open on all of the channels that they're normally posted. But thanks everyone for attending. This was fantastic, and keep your eyes open for the recording if you want to go back and rewatch some of these things and dig in a little bit more detail.
Yes. Good point. We will get that out as soon as possible. But again, thank you guys so much. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your evening, and I look forward to possibly meeting some of you on campus. Bye, everyone.